This is the Growth Farming Podcast. Welcome to you, my friend. I am D. Grant Smith. This podcast shows you how to grow from within yourself to produce your best life, healthy and vibrant relationships, as well as career success and happiness. Here's the thing. All of us are conditioned, trained, and programmed from a variety of different sources, including education, culture, religion, and other places, to seek out and chase after all the things that we want: love, success, acceptance, and happiness. And we chase after these things from other people, from outside forces like our jobs or careers or money or any sort of external outlet. But all of that chasing does what? It creates more pain. Real and lasting love is what we all want. And using what you will learn here with me, here in this Growth Farming Podcast, and with all the things that I teach in the Growth Farming Method, you learn how to attract, foster, and grow more love and happiness and success and wholeness every single day from within you. Love is the key. Cool. You ready to learn something powerful and new today? Winner! Let's get into it. So, over the past several weeks, I have been sharing with you what I consider to be the essential growth farming toolkit for personal growth and development. Everything centering around growing love from within. Now, I have concluded this series on my blog, which is dgrantsmith.com, and I'm going to share with you the conclusion that I have featured there, which is part 5 of this growth farming toolkit. It's all about conscious awareness. If you prefer to read things and see the words, go check out the blog article. I am going to be including a whole lot of that in this podcast discussion, but I'm also going to speak fairly extemporaneously as we go through this and include some things that I don't necessarily talk about on the blog because I have the capacity to do that here on this podcast. There's a whole lot that I can talk about when it comes to what conscious awareness really is. This is such a huge subject. It's like talking about God. Actually, in a way, it is talking about God. There's so much that I can say, that I can teach. There's so much that can be absorbed. And really, there's a whole lot that I haven't even learned yet. So we're just going to treat this as kind of an introduction to the concept. I open up to your questions and your perspectives and your thoughts and your ideas about all of this. So feel free to share that with me. There's a ton of ways you can communicate with me. Social media, email, website, all that stuff. If you want any of it, just go to dgrantsmith.com. Okay, cool. I'm going to do my best to keep this relatively brief because, again, conscious awareness is a big subject. And it is, in a way, talking about God. It's talking about consciousness. It's talking about the infinite. It's also talking about awareness. And awareness is something that is ever expanding because we as human beings are ever expanding. And our awareness of ourselves is really, really important. As we grow in our awareness with ourselves, we have the capacity now to expand our awareness and expand our consciousness and expand our understanding of everything, of life, of love, of God, of other people, of who we are in our connection with love and our connection with God and our connection with other people, and mostly our connection with ourselves. Like I tell you every episode and every time I get the chance to here on this podcast, your relationship with yourself is your most important relationship because that's the relationship you have for your entire human experience. You have known you your entire life, but how aware are you of yourself? And how conscious are you of yourself? How conscious and consciously aware are you of the infiniteness that you are? How expansive is your idea, is your recognition of who you are, not only at your core, but who you are at your capacities? Have you expanded out to the capacities of your own awareness to the furthest extent that you can possibly get to? I doubt it. Most of us haven't. What I want to talk about here is really an introduction. I'm going to be speaking about and writing about the whole centeredness of, and I say centeredness, the broader expanses, for lack of a better term, of what consciousness is and what awareness is and how conscious awareness works. Now, one thing I really want to point out here, of all the tools that I've listed in this toolkit from past episodes here on this podcast, and also what I've described in my blog, and what I write about in my weekly emails to the growth farming community, conscious awareness is the most important tool. Now, why do I have it mentioned last if it's the most important thing? Wouldn't it make more sense for me to talk about that first? Well, I have waited and saved this as the last key component and last essential tool, because just having the tools isn't enough. We have to have more than that. If all we utilize are the tools, but we don't utilize the capacity to expand ourselves, then we don't have the capacity to utilize the tools in the best ways. Not only that, but we end up just utilizing only the tools themselves instead of the actual power, the actual love, the actual centeredness that makes all things possible. Scripture teaches us that with God, nothing is impossible. And all kinds of great teachers, some of the ones I'm really keying in on right now include Neville Goddard and Florence Scovel Shinn and Ernest Holmes. They all teach that our capacity, our imagination, our God force within us is ever expansive and ever abundant and ever infinite, and that's what consciousness is. That's what conscious awareness is. It is this ever-increasing expansiveness of your sense of self. And as you continue to expand and continue to grow, then your ability to expand the use of your tools ever increases. And you stop seeing yourself as this person of limitation, and you stop seeing yourself as this person who is unworthy. And you stop seeing yourself as this person who has to prove themselves or seek validation or struggle with obstacles and challenges. And you begin to see yourself as this person who is infinitely limitless, and this person who is capable of everything and anything. The tools help make this expansion grow. The tools help make this love consciousness grow, but also the love consciousness is what helps make your use of the tools more expansive. You see how this all goes together? Everything is an ebb and a flow, and that's really what we're here to talk about and teach about today. Over the past several weeks, like I said, I've shared with you these essential tools. This is what I have used over the past 5 years or so to completely and radically change my life. I continue to use these tools because you don't stop using tools when they start working for you. That wouldn't make any sense. One of the things I really want to encourage you as an individual and as a person who is consciously expanding, somebody who is planting and cultivating love inside your heart and inside your mind to grow into the best version of you, I encourage you to consistently and continually utilize the tools that you have that work. Now, some of the things that I share with you, you might try for a couple days or a couple weeks, and they might not work for you the way they worked for me. And that makes sense because you're not living my life and I'm not living yours. I do encourage you, though, that no matter what it is that you try it for at least 30 days. Now, why 30? Isn't it taught that you need to do something for 21 days and that's how things start to change? Well, studies show, and studies you can put in quotation marks or finger quotes or any sort of other criteria, really, patterns begin to take shape after 21 days. That's true. But things don't begin to harden and solidify into something that really makes transformational change until they've happened for 63 to 66 consecutive days. There's all kinds of science and all kinds of studies that have proven this to be true. So I don't want you to necessarily, I'm not asking you to necessarily try something for 66 days, although that's what I've been doing, just making things an ongoing part of my regular everyday life and doing so consistently. I'm just asking you to do it for 30. If you'll try something for 30 days, see what results come from that. See what fruits come from this work. We can evaluate most things after we try them for at least 21 to 28 days. If you go ahead and just give yourself a month, see what happens. All right. Now, details, if you want more help with affirmations, meditation, these other tools that I've shared with you, if you want help with that stuff, I do have resources available for you inside my book and inside my courses and programs. All that stuff's at the website. But for now, let's once again just shift our focus into conscious awareness. It seems like I've been dancing around this, and I haven't. It's just such a huge subject that I want to make sure that I've covered the baseline for it, okay? This is the game changer. If we expand God and our idea of God away from religion, or maybe not even away from religion, but we expand even our religious concept of God as something that is bigger and greater than an ideal, or something that is bigger and greater and more expansive, more infinite than our capacity to put it into a box, then we start to increase our level of consciousness. We start to see God for what God actually is. And again, I'm not interested in religion here, because religion is trying to place God in a box. And one of the things that has helped me grow the most is taking my understanding of God out of the box. And as I take my understanding of God out of the box, then I start to see that infinite is something that is beyond just my intellect and my intellectual capacity to understand, which means that there's always something more to learn. There's always more to grow in, and there's always more to develop. And if we see consciousness from this place, then we see consciousness as this ever-expanding, ever-growing, ever-beneficial, ever-abundant way of thinking. And then that carries over into our ways of feeling. And that also carries over into our ways of being. Again, what we're doing is we are planting love inside of our inner garden, inside of our hearts, the way that we feel, inside of our minds, the way that we think, and the things that we believe. And as we do this, we are expanding our consciousness. As we expand our consciousness, that brings us into closer harmony and union and connection with divinity. Our source, where we all came from, all of us are energy. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And our connection with limitlessness, our connection with abundance, our connection with ever-increasing love is our connection with our source. That is God. That does not fit into a religious, ideological box. You see how this is so much more expansive than just one idea? So conscious awareness is becoming more aware of the ever-increasing, ever-growing, ever-giving, ever-loving entity, infiniteness that is God. And as we grow in our conscious awareness, we remove our need to be attached to limitations. And some of these limitations that we are inundated in and we are culturally trained and programmed to be attached to are needing validation from other people, or putting ourselves in situations where we feel like we have to have something from somebody else in order to feel worthy. It also removes our attachments to pain. And some of us, I can raise my hand for this, maybe you can as well, I have attached myself to pain in my past experiences. I attached myself to struggle. I attached myself to limitation because that was part of my cultural training. That was part of my familial training. I was trained to believe that work has to be hard, that money has to be a struggle, that success has to only be achieved and reached after years and years and years and years of difficulty and pain and struggle. Same thing with money. Same thing with love. I was taught that that's the way that life is, and it's not true. Because I put myself in this box, and I was conditioned, and also allowed myself to be conditioned into this belief. And the way that we expand our consciousness and the way that we grow in our awareness is to remove limitation from our belief system, remove limitation from our consciousness, and instead work on focusing on connecting with limitlessness, connecting with divinity, connecting with almighty love, aka God, aka Source. God brings all goodness into our reality. So what is the power of conscious awareness? The power of conscious awareness is really removing the power that our ego has. Our ego keeps us trapped in these struggles. Our ego is built around this need for survival. There's an intellectual part of us, there's an ego consciousness, and there is a limitless abundance consciousness. And instead of seeing these two levels of consciousness at war with each other, let's look at bringing harmony into this equation. It's one of the things that I've been working on. I talk to my ego, and I tell my ego, it's okay, I love you. Now, if you've spent any amount of time talking with me and understanding my interpretation of grace, one of the easiest ways to practice grace for yourself and grace with others is to say, it's okay, I love you. There's a lot of teachers that will talk about, spiritual teachers in particular, that will talk about ego as edging God out. The part of you that wants to remove God from your consciousness and focus only on your limitations and you trying to figure out life. And there's a lot of that that's very much true. But if you're going to fight against your ego, then you're declaring war on yourself. And if you spend any amount of time in America, where I live, then you probably have studied the Civil War of the 1800s. And in the Civil War of the 1800s, you had people who lived in the same country who were fighting against each other and killing each other over an ideal about what it means to be human and also what it means to be a member of this country. And there were some people that built an ideology around how it was okay for some people to have the rights of living in the country and other people didn't. Some people had the gifts of food. Some people were entitled to own property and some people weren't. Some people had the entitlements of having a job and some people didn't. Some people have the freedoms of being able to do and work and live as you please, and some people didn't. Now, we can constitute this difference as slavery if we want to, but essentially it was a matter of freedom. When you go to war with yourself, then things are going to struggle, and there's going to be pain, and there's going to be difficulty. And instead of bringing war to yourself, bring an emancipation of freedom that is love. So instead of going to war with your ego, as you connect with your consciousness and you become more aware of the limiting beliefs that you have, bring love to yourself. Tell yourself it's okay, I love you for having these limiting beliefs. Tell yourself it's okay, I love you for fostering things that you recognize you are now aware of, and you have the consciousness to see that this pattern in your life, this belief is unhealthy. This pattern in your life is toxic or dysfunctional. Because you chose to believe this thing that led to these results. Because you chose to seek validation from other people, you're consciously aware of that is an indication of your own lack of self-love. And so instead of fighting against yourself and berating yourself and being mad at yourself for choosing these toxic and dysfunctional patterns of seeking validation and going down this codependent road, you instead choose to love yourself. And that is the power of conscious awareness. The love that is within you is growing and expanding, and you're able to see yourself more clearly. And because you are growing love from within, you give love to the parts of yourself you didn't give love to before. The parts of you that said, I'm not worthy, so I have to go find worthiness in other people. The parts of you that said, because I don't feel like I have what it takes or I don't believe in myself, I need somebody else to believe in me, so then I'll feel okay. No, now your eyes are opened to see what's really going on inside of you and see that nobody external from yourself is going to fulfill you. The power of conscious awareness is the lights being turned on. And once you see, now you can't unsee. Because now those lights aren't going to be shut off again. Now you are aware. And that awareness is a waking up to the God consciousness or the super consciousness that is alive within you. This is the spiritual component that is inside of every single one of us. This is the spirit within you that is having the human experience. And the power of conscious awareness is the lights inside your consciousness, inside your awareness, inside the essence of who you really are. The lights begin coming on, and now you can see yourself more clearly. And as you see yourself more clearly, you see your connection with divinity more clearly, and you see your relationships with others more clearly. I want to share something with you that I haven't really talked about a whole lot yet. I'm going to be speaking a whole lot about this more in upcoming podcast episodes, yes, and videos, yes, and blog articles, yes, and every other thing that I'm in. And that's something that one of the best teachers in my experience, especially over the past several months, his name is Neville Goddard. Now, Neville transitioned from our human plane experience, i.e. he died in like 1960-something. But his teachings live on, and his teachings live on inside me, and now I have the beautiful gift of getting to teach you these things. One of Neville's teachings is that everyone is you pushed out. That is such an expansive way of looking at the power of conscious awareness, because we as individuals are creating the world around us every single day. And we're doing that from within ourselves. Our consciousness of who we are is being reflected to us every single day in our relationships with others, in our relationships with life, and in our relationships with ourselves. So what you believe to be true about yourself and what you believe to be true about other people, you are finding reflected back to you in your experiences with life, in your experiences inside of your career or your job or your business, and in your relationships with others. So instead of looking at other people and being angry at other people or feeling hurt by other people, when you experience some sort of pain or rejection or some sort of difficulty or some sort of struggle, instead of being mad at the world or blaming the economy or blaming politicians or blaming anything, I want you to look at this and grow in your consciousness. Ask the spirit inside of you, ask the consciousness inside of you, ask the divinity inside of you, what does this reflect about how I see myself? What is it that is being reflected back to me in terms of how I see myself or how I see other people? Now, another resource for this and a way to clear this and to expand your consciousness, a way to practice forgiveness for yourself, and a way for you to practice forgiveness for other people, even though, depending on your belief system, I'm learning about how forgiveness is a personal thing. But another resource for this is something called Ho'oponopono. A great resource for that is a book written by Dr. Joe Vitale and Dr. Hugh Lin, and it's called Zero Limits. But it's a way of seeing. Dr. Hewlin's very big on this, and his teachings are very profound. But it's a way of seeing everything that we experience in life as a reflection of something that is going on inside of us we might not be consciously aware of. Did you hear that? We might not be consciously aware of something that is inside of us. It might be a subconscious belief that is outside of your conscious awareness at present, but it's being reflected back to you in your experiences with other people, in experiences with life, in experiences and circumstances. There's a belief that is taking place or something that you're holding on to on a subconscious level that is being reflected back to you. Because everything and everyone is you pushed out. And when you can see that, when you allow yourself to suddenly go from being subconsciously blind to being consciously aware, then everything in your life begins to shift. Because then you're able to see the limiting beliefs that you've held on to for your whole life, and you learn how to let them go. Once you see, now you know. And if there's something that is going on inside of you, if there is a belief that you have that you don't want to have, if there's a limitation that you've been holding on to subconsciously, once you become consciously aware of it, now it doesn't have to stay inside of you anymore. This is how we do the inner gardening of weeding out things that don't serve you. So inside your inner mental garden, there are weeds and thorns and things that are sucking the life and the fruit out of the growth that you want to experience. These are limiting beliefs. These are negative beliefs. These are doubts and fears that have deep roots inside your subconscious. It's important for us to continue to look at the fear behind the fear, behind the fear behind the fear, or the doubt behind the doubt behind the doubt, or the belief behind the belief behind the belief. That's how we dig deeper and we get to the roots of the real things that need to come out. And this is where we get down deep into these subconscious beliefs that have actually been the cause of the difficulty or the struggle or the pain that we feel on the inside. Now, for me in my own personal journey, I felt like my ultimate kryptonite or my ultimate enemy was rejection and abandonment. So those were my two biggest fears. I was able to identify what those were. But when I experienced rejection, when I experienced abandonment at what I felt was my worst predicament, and that was going through a very painful divorce, what was really at the core of that, what conscious awareness showed me, my unconscious and subconscious programming was that I didn't feel or believe that I was lovable, which translated up into all kinds of other fears about rejection and abandonment and feeling like I had to chase love from other people. But at the heart and the core of it was I didn't know how to love myself. And since I had not loved myself, I had taught other people how to not love me. The root that I had to get to and the work that I had to do on myself was learning what love is so I could learn how to love myself. And that's what changed my life. That unconscious predicament, that unconscious, subconscious belief of feeling unworthy of love was what I became consciously aware of. And once I became consciously aware of it, I couldn't shut off that light. It changed everything in my life. And that's what created and made the tools of using affirmations and using meditation and using journaling and using walking in nature. That's what made those tools powerful. Being consciously aware of what it is that I really am working on doing. then it wasn't about just getting a result. It wasn't just about suddenly having a loving relationship or suddenly becoming a successful business person. No, all those things were icing on the cake. But I needed the real cake. And the real cake was me loving myself. I didn't want the icing. I didn't want the sprinkles. I wanted all of it. And I wanted to experience and facilitate all of it. And all of that is an internal experience. And that's what growing love from within is all about. And as you grow in your conscious awareness, as you grow in your connection with your real self, and as you see yourself and you see some of these beliefs that you've had that are not producing the fruit that you want, you see them for what they actually are. They're actually weeds or thorns or something that is squelching the life and the growth that you really want. When you're able to see that, you're practicing conscious awareness. And as you're able to see the ways that you have not loved yourself, you can begin to make conscious choices and conscious decisions from that awareness to change everything. And it's from this perspective that you use the tools that matter and the tools that work for you. And again, use these tools for at least 30 days. Use journaling for at least 30 days to see how your consciousness and your conscious awareness can expand. And use conscious awareness in your journaling to see how you can grow and expand, how you can grow more love from within. Same thing with affirmations, same thing with meditation, same thing with spending time in nature. It's all about growth. It's all about expansion, but it's all really about you growing in your relationship with yourself, you expanding the way that you see yourself, you seeing yourself as the infinite, limitless, abundant, loving being that you are. And as you see yourself in this way, everything will change. Because when you see yourself as love, then what it does is it changes the way that you see love. And also your expansiveness, the expansion of your consciousness, you're able to see love as infinite. And you're also able to see love as what is already inside of you, because that's where you came from. And you're able to see, here's a beautiful picture, and this is what I love going to this in meditation. I also love going to this in just writing and storytelling. You are the waterfall. The waterfall that is the limitless source of love, you are that. You are also the wellspring of life. You are the river of life. And if you will just go within yourself and become consciously aware, use your imagination for this. Use your imagination to imagine an overflowing waterfall that never ends. Niagara Falls is a great picture of that. If you will see Niagara Falls as limitless love, always pouring down limitless love, and then you become, with your conscious awareness, you imagine yourself to be the waterfall, then you see yourself as love without limits, love without end. The overflowing waterfall is constantly being fed love, and that love comes from a source that is ever expansive and ever increasing. The waterfall isn't going out and seeking water from some other source. It is constantly overflowing. And that is the love that is within us. And when we grow love from within, when we see ourselves as expansive, we see ourselves as abundant, then the weeds that have been holding us back in terms of these limiting beliefs, they die automatically. They are squelched automatically. They dissipate. They dissolve. And actually, you can use your conscious awareness in this capacity too, and use your imagination. Use your imagination to turn limitation and belief about limitation, to transmute that, to perform alchemy from within you, to transmute that and transform that into love. It just becomes something that is the opposite of what it is. And you do this with love. You do this with grace. It's okay, I love you transforms non-love into love. It transforms limitation into limitlessness. It transforms doubt into faith. It transforms fear into strength. It transforms unwholeness and insecurity into belief and wholeness and confidence and peace. And you have the capacity to do that on your own inside of you. If you need help with that, I have tools. I have tools that will teach you how to use the tools. I have trainings and lessons and teachings that will teach you how to utilize these tools. If you want to go on a more deeper level with this, then visit my website, dgrantsmith.com, and click on the courses and trainings, courses and teachings, or the products and books links. All of the stuff that you need to be able to take all this stuff to the next level is available there for you. Or if you want my personal help, you want me to hold your hand or just walk with you on this path through this process, I would love the opportunity to do that. Let's have a virtual coffee where we can talk about what that looks like. You can set that up by, once again, going to my website, dgrantsmith.com, click on the About Me link, or just go to the homepage, the welcome page, dgrantsmith.com. I've got several links in there for you to set up a virtual coffee. It's just a free conversation where we sit down, we meet each other in a virtual face-to-face interaction, and you tell me what it is that you want to grow in, and I'll show you what that looks like and how we can set that up. Sound good? Awesome. Okay, well, that is it for conscious awareness. It's a whole lot of stuff to talk about. I really haven't even scratched the surface. I think I might have maybe kind of rubbed my finger across the surface of the gigantic iceberg that is this huge, gigantic subject. But we've covered a whole lot today, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your presence, and I appreciate you cultivating your inner garden with me as I cultivate my inner garden here in this growth farming journey. What did you think about this episode? Was there something that you felt like I didn't talk about that you thought I might? Was there something that you were like, okay, you really scratched the surface of this area over here, D. Grant, but you didn't scratch the surface of this other stuff? Or maybe you have a question or a comment that you just want to share with me. Feel free to do that. Here's my email address, dgrant, yes, DGRANT at dgrantsmith.com. I look forward to hearing from you and connecting with you. There's all kinds of different places where you can do that. Once again, my website, dgrantsmith.com, if you want to dig into all the tools on a deeper level. I've got a way for you to do that for $7. It's inside my book, Be Solid, How to Go Through Hell and Come Out Whole. I've got the ebook and the audiobook and 2 other ebooks and 2 courses, all available for just $7 at besolidbook.com. Go check that out. I've given you a whole lot of links, a whole lot of ways for you to connect with me, a whole lot of ways for you to take everything that you've learned here and go to the next level, grow and expand in you becoming the best version of you. Awesome. Until next time, my name is D. Grant Smith. You know me. I look forward to connecting with you, and I will see you soon here on the Growth Farming Podcast. I believe in you. I love you, and I'll see you soon.